Mangwana ni Malelepo, Vukenjani, Klekwas Vanawe Africa. Welcome to Africa Good Morning, the news and current affairs show bringing you everything you need to know happening on the African continent and beyond. You are joined by Ashwin Berry and Aina Raizakweyo.
Good morning. How are you doing today? In our broadcast, refugees demand for energy, a cause for concern, and legal advice sought on exemptions for schools and hospital, as well as Egyptians heads to the polls amid economic crisis and Israel-Hamas War. You can follow all our programs on our website, which is called oneupto.com, or you can catch us on DSTV 285 or GoTV 25 in Namibia. We have Talent Gore and Ariho on the show later on. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Getting into our top stories, in the vast refugee camps of Nduta and Nyarugusu, experts have revealed that the lack of clean energy not only tormented these communities, but also posed a grave threat to the environment, exacerbating the current impacts of climate change. A resident of Nduta camp says the challenges are stark and deeply personal. The dire situation, Kisa says, forces them to purchase firewood from host communities, creating a complex dependence on the resource, which is increasingly becoming scarce. As of October 31, 2023, Tanzania hosts 163,944 refugees from Burundi and 89,021 from the Democratic Republic of Congo, according to official data from Refugee Services Department. However, experts say the ongoing influx of refugees leads to severe challenges.
In our next story, legal advice sought on exemption for schools and hospitals. Minister of Electricity Khoichenso Ramakgopa says they are receiving legal advice on the Pretoria High Court judgment that the government should exempt schools, hospitals and police stations from load shedding by the end of January. Ramakgopa said they understood they need to provide uninterrupted electricity but needed to know how it interpret the judgment. The UDM, IFP, Action SA and other parties and civil society organizations had taken the government to court to force it not to implement load shedding at schools, hospital and police stations. Ramakgopa said on Sunday during a media briefing that they were studying the judgment and would communicate once they had received legal advice on the matter.
Now, Egyptians headed to the polls on Sunday for a presidential election in which Abdel Fattah Sisi is poised to win a third term in power as the country grapples with an economic crisis and a war on its border with Gaza. Victory would hand Sisi a 6-year term in which immediate priorities would be taming near-record inflation, managing a chronic foreign currency shortage, and preventing spillover from the conflict between Israel and Gaza's Hamas rulers. Voting, which runs from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. is spread over 3 days, with results due to be announced on December the 18th. As voting began on Sunday morning, small crowds gathered at polling stations in Cairo, where pictures of Sisi have proliferated in the weeks leading up to the election. Riot police were deployed at entrances of Tahrir Square in the center of the capital. Critics see the election as a sham after a decade-long crackdown on dissent. The government's media body has called it a step towards political pluralism.
Nigerian President Bola Tinubu on Sunday said the West African bloc ECOWAS should try to re-engage with regional countries under military rule and support them to achieve realistic and short transitions to democracy. Niger in July became the latest economic community of the West African state members to undergo a coup when soldiers from the Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum and set up what they called a transitional government, one of a series of government overthrows in West Africa's Sahel region. Authorities in Guinea-Bissau and Sierra Leone said 2 weeks ago they had thwarted coup attempts. Speaking at an annual summit in Nigeria capital Abuja, ECOWAS Chairman Tinubu said the bloc should re-engage with the countries under military rule based on realistic and short transition plans that can deliver democracy and good governance. ECOWAS has imposed a series of economic sanctions on the juntas which are hurting people and should be removed, the military government says.
All right, now Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro will meet Guyana President Mohamed Irfan Amir amid a territorial dispute between the two countries, according to a letter from St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves. Tensions have been mounting between Venezuela and Guyana in recent weeks due to a long-running border dispute over Essequibo, an area in Guyana where massive discoveries of offshore oil and gas have been made. The bilateral meeting is set to take place on the 14th in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where they will be accompanied by Gonsalves. Venezuela's government said the meeting is to preserve our aspiration to maintain Latin America and the Caribbean as a zone of peace. Those have been our top stories on Africa Good Morning. After the break, we get joined by talent Gore from Zimbabwe.
Neo Paints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neo Paints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neo Paints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
All right, so Botswana and Namibia currently have a not long-standing, but an agreement rather, quite fresh off the table. An agreement that allows both countries to enter passport-free with just IDs. The same agreement was extended to Zambia, which is Zambia and Namibia. And it seems like Zimbabwe and Botswana have joined this trend, so to speak. But Talent Gore is here to elaborate more on that and other stories stemming from Zimbabwe. Good morning, Talent.
Good morning, Ashton, and good morning, Aina, and Africa. Good morning.
Africa, good morning indeed. So Botswana quite open to opening its borders. A sharp left, rather, if you look at how things were in the early 2000s. What do you think brought up this change of heart? I mean, I'm the last word to speak, but in general, there's a little bit of adversity in Africa when it comes to Zimbabwean immigrants. So help us make sense of this one.
So President Emmerson Mnangagwa said that this move, apparently right now, it imposes constraints on ourselves as Africans, which are more colonial than they are patriotic. So they had agreed with Botswana President Masisi to open the borders to Botswana, to Tswanas and to Zimbabweans. They said that they have instructed, or they're going to instruct their government officials and government departments to direct, or rather to begin working on modalities to scrap passport requirements between Zimbabwe and Botswana to pave the way for seamless movement of people and goods. President Emmerson Mnangagwa said that the envisioned dispensation agreed with his Botswana counterpart president, and this would mean that travelers would only require their respective national identity documents to travel between the two countries. He also said that the national identity card should be enough for someone to move between Botswana and Zimbabwe. They say that requiring a passport in Africa should be a thing of the past because those borders that are bordering Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Namibia, they were put there by during the colonial era. So right now we should do away with those and we should allow full movement of Africans and full movement of goods from one country to another without requiring passports or visas or whatever, but then just having an identity card that says that one is Zimbabwean or one is Tswana should allow that person to have a full movement from Botswana to Zimbabwe. So that is what the president said, and we're going to be monitoring how we as Zimbabweans, or rather how the government is going to respond to this, and as to when they will allow this to take place.
All right, Talent, moving over to your next story. IMF says it is ready to aid Zimbabwe's debt recovery plan. Tell us about this.
Yes, the International Monetary Fund has said that its readiness to support Zimbabwe in implementing a staff monitoring program that could pave the way for area clearances and debt restructuring in the country. The IMF stands ready to support Zimbabwe as soon as the authorities are ready, said the Director of Communications in the International Monetary Fund. He said that in June this year, the Zimbabwean authorities formally requested an SMP with the IMF, and as part of area clearances and debt resolution roadmap that it agreed with multilateral and bilateral creditors early this year. The roadmap, if successfully implemented, is expected to help Zimbabwe clear its debt, and bilateral and multilateral creditors to help it unlock new funding from global finances. So as it stands, Zimbabwe is not being given is not allowed to borrow because it has, it has credit, it has debt, it owes so many it owes so many companies, it owes the International Monetary Fund, it owes the World Bank. So right now we can't afford to request for a loan. We can't, no company can lend a Zimbabwe money. So this will actually go a long way if it is successful. We'll then be able to borrow money from the International Monetary Fund or the World Bank.
I do wonder if, sanctions might kick in with such agreements as this, because you often find that the people who sit at the head of the UN, the IMF, and the sanctions are just one group of people. So, it'll be interesting to see how that rolls out, particularly due to the calls for a functioning democracy in Zimbabwe. Speaking of which, after members of parliament were recalled by an obscure figure, Zimbabwe is having by-elections. Any guesses on who's winning?
So apparently on Saturday, Zimbabwe held its by-elections after some members of parliament recalled by a bogus, if I might say, Secretary General for CCC, Sabangu. He said, currently right now as it stands, ZANU-PF claimed 7 of the vacant 9 National Assembly seats to get to within 3 seats of a 2/3 majority in parliament, and the ruling party also gained 4 council seats, 3 in Bulawayo and 1 in Masvingo, in an election which was marred by low voter turnout. The by-elections were called after Sengezo Tsabangu styling himself as the Citizens Coalition for Change interim Secretary General recalled MPs and councillors in the August 24 elections, claiming they had ceased to be members of the party. The recalled MPs said that Tsabangu was an imposter and had filed papers to stand in Saturday's election, but a court their names removed from the ballot on Friday night. So you find out that the by-elections, ZANU-PF won most of the seats, whilst CCC won just a little. So for one to have a majority vote, they must have 2/3 of the 2/3 of their MPs in parliament. And right now, ZANU-PF is only left with winning 3 seats, or with getting 3 seats for it to have majority to rule, especially in parliament. So right now, we're just monitoring the situation, but it doesn't look good for the Citizens for Coalition Change, CCC, and its president, Nelson Chamisa. So the citizens, particularly in Zimbabwe, they didn't go out to vote on Saturday. The election was marred with low voter turnout and apathy. People are saying that why should we go and vote again when we voted and our votes have been stolen by Sabang, whom we don't even know. We don't know where he came from, but by the courts, they have granted him power to recall our members of parliament, the people that we voted for. So right now, we don't know where the democracy is when it comes to the elections in Zimbabwe. So that is all on a by-election update in Zimbabwe at the moment.
Very interesting. You know, Talent, I've got a lovely dog. His name is Kwame. Very well-behaved guy. But occasionally Kwame gets a little adventurous. And he will just knock down his dog food. And I know his intention. But if he's knocked down his dog food and I arrive, he knows he's got plausible deniability. Who could have knocked down this dog food? But if I arrive in silence and Kwame doesn't see me there, after he knocks down his dog food, he then eats it. So if I catch him eating it, then I know, And of course, because it's dog food, we know that only Kwame could possibly benefit from knocking down this dog food. I hope that story can lead us into the week as we ponder upon Zimbabwean democracy. Thank you very much, Talent, for bringing us the news stories.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for having me.
Always good having you on Africa. Good morning. Let's head to the weather predictions. Quickly diving into economic news, the initiative, now this is Rwanda securing $250 million from AFDB. This initiative seeks to enhance the community's access to water supply and sanitation services while strengthening the management of water resources and the operational efficiency of water and sanitation service providers in the designated regions.
The Mozambican Parliament, the Assembly of the Republic, on Thursday voted to approve the government's plan and budget for 2024. The vote for the first reading of the budget was along party political lines.
Very interesting updates. Let's head straight to the indicators just before we go to the sport. All right, it's time for us to get the sports updates from Ari. Ari, we don't have much time in this segment, so we'll need you to move as efficiently as possible. Arsenal lost to Aston Villa. We got that story out of the way. Please continue.
Yes, good morning. Yes, that's quick. News from the English Premier League at the moment is that Arsenal leading after 16 rounds. It is it's Liverpool. Liverpool leading after 16 rounds. And they had a good win, a tough win in the end to Crystal Palace away 2-1. Expected to win easier, but they did win in the end. 37 points. And next game for Liverpool will be this coming weekend, the 17th of December. It will be against Manchester United at home. So a big game coming up. And it's Manchester United, talking about them, had a real struggle. They lost at home. Quite embarrassingly, actually. Born-with 3-0. So not good things happening at Manchester United at the moment. Bit up and down.
Sorry, Ari, did you say 3-0?
Yes, it was 3-0 to Bournemouth.
All right,
yes,
sure. At home at Old Trafford. Yes.
At Old Trafford, yes. Okay. So it was not a good result. Erik ten Hag under huge pressure because of that result, but we'll see if he still continue to be the coach after Christmas, but there's big pressure at Manchester United. But other games important to mention is Aston Villa that beat Arsenal, a great win for Aston Villa, and they really confirmed that they can be title contenders as well. Aston Villa, a good season, beating Arsenal 1-0. And then Manchester City back on winning ways again. They beat Luton Town 2-1. And then Tottenham Hotspur too strong for Newcastle 4-1. So that's the football news out of the way. And it is round 17 coming up this coming weekend. Let's go to the rugby. Big rugby. There was a big party in Cape Town. First, let's go to the Stormers there in action. It was, they call it the Champions Cup. It's almost like the European Champions League. It's the Rugby Champions Cup, and it was the Bulls that beat Saracens in Pretoria 27-16. The Stormers went all the way to Leicester abroad in England. Had quite competitive, but they lost 35-26. They kind of send the B team. They're playing La Rochelle, the champions, this coming weekend in Cape Town. And then Big Sevens Rugby. It was the Sevens party in Cape Town Saturday and Sunday. And in the end, Sevens Rugby, it was in the men's division, Argentina. They beat Australia in the final, 45-12, quite convincingly. The Blitzboks fell away early in the round of 8, and they fell away to Australia. And then in the women's section, it was Australia. They beat France 29-26, so a great result for Australia there. On to cricket news real quick. South Africa, India rained out in Durban. No cricket there. That was the first T20, sold out crowd, very disappointing rain, stop play there, didn't play at all. And then Zimbabwe hosting Ireland, and it was Ireland that won the third T20 game. They won the series there, the T20 side of that, 2-1. They won by 6 wickets. The third one, they play from Wednesday, 50 over 3 series games. And then it was the West Indies that beat England in Barbados to win their 50 over series 2-1. Great result for the West Indies. And then just briefly, golf. Alfred Daniel Championship being played at Leopards Creek in Malalaan in South Africa. And so that will be concluded today. There were rain yesterday, prevented them to finish. The leaders just played 7 holes. Louis Oosthuizen and Charles Schwartz are leading on -16 at the moment. They will continue playing today. Lots of rain there in Malalaan in the Alfred Daniel. So that is the sports news for today. Hope it's a great sport day. And we're looking forward to a great weekend of English Premier League football again this coming weekend. And have a great Monday. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Ari. We'll take a short break and we'll be back with the highlights. Let's quickly have a look at the highlights from this morning's broadcast. Refugees' demand for energy a cause for concern in Tanzania. Legal advice sought on exemption of schools and hospitals. Egyptians head to the polls amid economic crisis and Israel-Hamas war. Rwanda secures $250 million from AFDB.
And those have been our stories. We thank you very much for watching Africa Good Morning on this beautiful Monday morning. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place. It's all our love, all our light.
Since I'm the only one left with headsets from DJ Ashwin, Swera Zakanaka.